All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the stream. I'm Teeks88, and I am joined by my fellow commentator, Scotch and Tie Guy. Tonight, we're continuing qualifier heats for GSA Super Mario Bros. 3 100% tournament. So just to recap the format of the tournament for those who may not know or are just joining us, we have a total of 18 participants for this event, each of who have been participating in qualifier heats over the course of this week. The top 16 recorded times during this qualifying period will advance in a single elimination bracket. So just last night, we watched Macobra52, The Lost Llama, and Mitch Flowerpower put on a great show with their heats, and we're prepared to keep things going with roopert83, proa007, and SuperSonic as they get ready to do their own runs. I do believe we're still in the process of setting up, so please hang tightly as we'll be starting shortly. In the meantime, anything you want to add, Scotch?
Yeah, just really exciting so far. I don't think a lot of people would, at least for myself even, wouldn't typically look at Super Mario Bros. 3 and be like, oh, this is going to be exciting. No, these have been really exciting runs, really interesting decisions to, different strategies, that sort of thing. It looks like we've got a go-ahead start here.
Yeah, each
one
is
pretty straightforward.
It looks like the stream is still in the process of catching up. It looks like Pro got a little bit of a late start on our end. So over the course of the time, the stream will have an opportunity to sync up. So all three of the races are now making their way to level 1-2. It has a pretty finicky strat to gain early P-speed. It requires running up the base of both hills at the beginning ever so slightly in order to start building your meter. You'll know the strat work when you get 6 filled arrows as soon as you cross over that first horizontal pipe, in which case you'll have liftoff by the time you reach the second. Overall, the strat saves about 1 second, so it's a nice bonus to have, but it's not entirely essential.
Yeah, this whole game is all about controlling, maintaining, and getting that P-speed. As you see Roopert here working on that P-speed here and maintaining it very nicely through that whole level.
Yeah, you got a 293 exit for 1-3, which is about what you want to have as soon as you start building that P-speed in the beginning. So looks like everyone's making their way to their first auto-scroller. So there's not going to be much going on in this level aside from a bit of platform hopping and a raccoon leaf that each runner will be picking up along the way. That will, of course, come in handy for the fort, which they'll be doing next. It may also be worth noting that auto-scrollers generally are a good opportunity to keep an eye out for your score and coin count because there's always a potential risk that you'll get a coin chip later. Just as a reminder, coin chips can spawn in place of one of the Hammer Bros on the world map, and this happens when your coin count is a multiple of 11, and the second to last digit of your score matches that coin count. So for example, if it will spawn if your score ends in an 80 and your coin count is 88, or if your score ends in 90 and you have a 99 coin count. And so on. Coin chips can potentially pop up in worlds 1, 3, 5, and 6, so it's never too early to be wary of those numbers. Admittedly, it's a pain to imagine doing mental math on the fly like that, but the time repercussions for encountering a coin chip can easily swing a race or cost you a PB run, since you otherwise have to play a really slow auto-scroller, at least one that's as slow as the World 4 airship.
Well, and these runners are so used to maintaining and watching that coin count that it isn't too much of a problem for them. And this is 100%, so there's plenty of time for mistakes to be made, for changes in their strategy, since they're doing every single level, and it's not too much RNG involved because again, it's 100%, so you have to do everything. So for instance, the hands, there's not going to be really any RNG per se with the hands, because you have to do all 3 of the hands anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I wouldn't say that there's going to be no RNG involved because the amount of movements that each of the Hammer Bros are going to make on the world map is going to matter, just in a very much smaller margin. Plus, you'll have strats and opportunities to try to encounter them sooner since you're not going to be using the clouds for anything else. So we see our racers making their way through 1-5, so we saw each of them ditch the raccoon tail by damage boosting down the hill. It's actually faster to run through most levels in the game without a tail since you have more control of your P-speed that way. The other times you generally see a tail used are for levels where it's especially advantageous to use the flight mechanics as opposed to those that just make heavy use of running and jumping. Looks like Rupert's gonna have to is making multiple cycles to build piece speed on that platform in 1-6.
Really good question in chat. We were talking about RNG. Is there any other RNG other than the Hammer Bros? My answer would be yes. You could probably go into more detail regarding that though.
Yeah, there is of course the hammer bro movements, and there is a bit of luck involved with what kind of boss pattern you're gonna get for the Koopaling fights. So sometimes you'll go down the pipe, and as soon as you start up the fight, they'll either jump right away, they'll try to shoot their wand right away, or they're just gonna walk toward you and not do anything else. And that's gonna matter because that's gonna determine how you approach doing the fire kills on the Koopalings. And generally, you're gonna want to do fire kills over just normal jump kills because that's gonna save you a couple seconds for each world. So the way the Koopaling boss patterns work is for it works on a timer that starts from the end of the last level you completed to the time you enter the pipe in the airship. So there is a way to manipulate that, especially in World 1, by grabbing a power-up as soon as the level's transitioning out on the Hammer Bro level, and that'll make sure that you're on a good frame rule for when you go in to fight Larry.
We see all these guys able to maintain those fire flowers, not really having too much of a problem with this first boss here.
Yeah, it looks like Rupert got a pretty solid fire kill on Larry, so we'll be making our way to World 2 shortly. Yeah, I made a comment earlier about building piece speed on 1-6, so while that cutscene's going, I just want to explain that there is a frame rule involved with that as well. The game checks your P meter the moment you start running every 8 frames. So there is a chance that even if you land perfectly flush on each of the wooden beams, you just won't fill up right away, just because the game probably hit a checkpoint as soon as you're running over that small gap. So you want to avoid having to do multiple cycles because each one will cost you about 4 seconds. Alright, so looks like everyone's making their way through 2-1. It's a pretty straightforward execution. It just simply entails holding B and right upon entering the level to build your P speed, and then rubbing against that first block, and then trying to carry that P speed straight into the end zone.
Well, you don't see too much. There's not a whole lot of tricky stuff here in the first couple of worlds. You won't really see any clips used until World 7, really. But, you know, just standard left to right movement, just maintain that P speed like you said. Get through the level as easily as possible.
Yeah, there's not going to be too many overly complicated strats for the earlier worlds, but there are minute details that you can look forward to in order to save a couple seconds here and there. So we see that Rupert was able to... he used the star going into the fort, which is a pretty convenient way to build early P speed, as opposed to avoid getting frame ruled, trying to do those meticulous small jumps, trying to be on the ground as much as possible.
It's been really interesting through this tournament to see the different kind of philosophies and how runners use items. As you see, you know, Proa not using that star, Rupert deciding to use the star there at the beginning of that castle. You know, item choice and where you use it, that sort of thing has been really interesting to see throughout this tournament.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, when it comes to running vanilla SMB3, there is a predetermined path you take in where you use certain items to get the most optimal time possible. But every once in a while, you can tailor those strats relative to what your skill level is or what you're most comfortable with generally.
Well, that's what you'll see with these races. You know, with runs, you'll typically see runners, you know, use the most optimal strategy for whatever, you know, the run is. So if it's a warpless run, you're going to use these items. If it's a 100% run, you're going to use these items, that sort of thing. But with races, really what you're going to see is people picking and choosing what strategies they want to use. You know, am I going to use a risky strategy here that I know I'm not as good at but saves a ton of time, or am I going to go something more consistent and where I can use other risky strategies that I know I'm good at later on down the line?
Yeah, there's definitely some instances where there are opportunities where I could save 1 or 2 seconds on a particular level, but I'm just not really comfortable in terms of the execution. So I just use the next best thing that would be fairly close.
Well, you're not resetting, and that's the big thing. And I think most runners are used to, you know, if I make a mistake or whatever, I'm gonna go reset. But you know, you're not resetting here, so you gotta get all the way through as quickly and as efficiently as you possibly can, depending on your skill level, you know, and how comfortable you are with certain tricks. You might choose one thing and not another.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you're in a race setting, you don't really have an opportunity for a do-over, so it's definitely worthwhile to have a good idea of what your skill level is and what you feel most comfortable with, because in the long run, it'll definitely be a good opportunity to exchange maybe a couple seconds here and there in favor of some more consistency. All right, so it looks like Rupert completely wrecked the pyramid level. There are two strats that runners will use in the pyramid. The first of which is boosting past that first blocked wall we saw by running into it with a Buzzy Beetle shell and then throwing it into, at the wall just with enough space between you to duck and sneak by. Interestingly, the game grants you a small window of invincibility when you're that close to a ricocheting shell, which is why you can get away without taking damage. The second strat, once you get to that upper level, is just a matter of allowing the second shell to drop down and then break a path for you to duck slide under. Every once in a while, you'll see the runners probably use a star on one of these boomerang hammer bros, and that they'll save you the time that would otherwise be required to for that boomerang to leave the screen. All right, so there's not much to this Fire Bro fight. You just want to jump as soon as you enter the level and then just bop them on, and then make your way out. All right, and then we see proa007 following suit is here as well. And now it looks like all three races are on their way to the castle for the World 2 airship. A couple of things that I didn't have a chance to cover before is that 2-4 is one of those levels in the game where that still makes me slightly nervous because it starts off with a tightly timed jump running at P-speed, and you can use this jump to boost off the first set of Koopas past the Boomerang Bro and the Fire Piranha straight into the end. It's especially scary because you may have to readjust your movements on the fly depending on where how that first Boomerang Bro is standing. You could either stomp him, collide into him, or move right past him, and you'll never know it because he's off screen while you're in the air. So it's easy to choke away whatever groove you're in and then just fall right into a nearby pit. I've had my own share of resets as far as that goes.
Right. We see Proa following up closely on this airship as Rupert and Supersonic are taking care of it pretty easily, holding on to that fire flower. So crucial to hold on to these items for as long as you possibly can. You know, certain areas you can't pick these items back up sometimes, and losing an item can be really, really fatal to your run.
Yeah, speaking of the Koopaling boss pattern before, it didn't look like I didn't know if Rupert was going to go for the fire killer or not. Either way, but it didn't look like he got a good pattern to begin with because Morton Koopa just did a jump right at the beginning. So just trying to pin him in one spot so that you could just keep shooting at him is definitely a pain right off the bat. So it looks like Supersonic just finished up as well. It looks like they're not too far behind from each other. Proa007 obviously making his way to Morton as well. So we'll be seeing him finishing up that shortly. So we'll be making our way to World 3. Level 3-1 is a pretty basic swimming level to start off with. You're effectively just moving forward, steering clear of the bloopers, and making your way over to the wall to P-speed your way over half of the level's water, and then effortlessly make your way to the exit pipe. A neat little gimmick about this level is that if you jump on the very first frame that you have control of Mario, you're able to start the level with a big jump, and that'll be able to let you skip a little bit of the water. Doesn't save a whole lot of time, but it's swag nonetheless.
Well, definitely a lot of areas where you can just kind of show off a little bit, which is nice. But Rupert here, able to get P-speed.
Yeah, 3-2 has a really tricky P-speed strat.
Oh, able to maintain it still.
Yeah, he saved it in the sense that he didn't take any damage from the Cheap Cheeps, which is definitely a feat in itself. Free 2 is a level that I'm sure most runners have dreaded at some point, and has definitely been a reset point. A lot of that can be attributed to the hitbox interactions between Mario and the Cheap Cheeps in the water. There are instances where you can be directly on top of their sprite and to stomp kill them, but if the acceleration speeds are too high at the moment you both make contact, the game will instead register it as damage and you'll just fall right through them. The optimal strat for that level is...
Rupert getting eaten by the big fish there.
Oh no. Well, if he's able to build that P-speed right back up, it shouldn't be too terrible of a loss. Yeah, it's unfortunate if you miscalculate one of your jumps. It's very easy to just fall into the water and get eaten by Boss Pass.
Yeah, it seemed like he got a little tripped up there in his movement and stalled on one of the landing areas that you can land on in that wet world, obviously.
Yeah, and with that, Supersonic takes the lead going into the World 3 fort. As soon as the runners get P-speed, they want to make their way past the swamps, and they'll be able to make their way over to Door 6, which will lead them to the Boom Boom. Periodically, you'll see runners try to enter Door 3, which ordinarily leads you straight into the water, but if the player is able to press up on the first frame in which they have control over Mario, they can re-enter that door in midair and go straight to Boom Boom that way. It's a risky shortcut that'll save a couple seconds, but it's really not worth it, especially if you're either on good pace or in a race.
Well, and the one nice thing about this is these are time trials essentially. So whoever comes in first here, it doesn't really matter too much, just as long as you're making that time. I mean, again, these are qualifiers. So just in case we'll talk, we might say Supersonic takes the lead here, but it doesn't really. It's negligible that he takes the lead just simply because we're talking about time trials.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yep. I know you referenced that. I just didn't want to confuse. Wanted to make sure that the viewers knew that.
Oh yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, it's good to remind that this is qualifier heat. They're not directly racing each other, although at the end all the times are going to be compared in order to determine the seeding for the bracket. So it looks like Supersonic is making his way to level 3-5. It's one of the freer levels in the game if you have a P-Wing. It's just a matter of flying over the water and then timing your jump so that you're landing flush with every platform to ensure that you have plenty of surface space to run off of and then make the most of your speed. So he ends off with a 289 pipe, which is very solid for this level. And we see Roopert not too far behind, finishing up 3-4. And looks like Pro is cleaning up the Hammer Bros before making his way through the rest of the map. So we're on our next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Supersonic and Roopert. I was just about to say are playing really clean. A couple mistakes from Rupert's part, obviously making him fall behind slightly here over Supersonic, but regardless, just really nice play thus far.
Yeah, so it looks like Supersonic and Roopert are on level 3-6. It's one of the more fun auto-scrollers to mess around with. It's a nice cool-off period to grab a Fire Flower right in the beginning. If at any point you had taken damage, and take some shots at the Koopas along the way. It's also one of the more noteworthy levels in the game to highlight graphical glitches, where you can turn item boxes blue or donut glyphs green. But beyond that, it's a good opportunity to also keep an eye out for your coin count, as I had mentioned before. Perhaps it's the only part where the only part in the stage you really have to keep an eye on is for the spinner right at the end, since one careless jump can cause you to be thrown right off into the pit, and you never want to die, especially at the end of an auto scroller.
Well,
so,
these auto scrollers, you gotta stay patient, you gotta stay awake because these are so slow sometimes. And if you know off too long, you can make a critical mistake. We've seen that before here in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like 3-7 is it's one of the easier levels to get through in World 3. As long as you're just moving forward, building that P-speed, you just want to make sure that you're carefully measuring your jumps by the time you make your way over to where that Spike and Koopa are. The strat just entails stomping on either of them, making your way over to the clouds via the pipe and those two platforms, and then small jumping at the end onto the block. It is possible to experience some lag frames on your way down, which could potentially affect your follow-up jump. But it's not impossible to recover from in the worst-case scenario. It just doesn't register in time.
Well, we see Rupert and SuperSonic trading the lead a couple times there. Just optimal movement between the two of them, and then optimal movement by Rupert, then more optimal movement by SuperSonic. So trading that lead twice.
Yeah, there's just two small things you need to look out for in the swimming fort. The first is which you'll see the racers doing what's called a power swim. So you generally want to do a medium jump as soon as you enter the level, and then duck slide into that shallow water, and then you'll be able to do what's called a power swim, and then that'll just let you slide into that first pipe, and that'll save you a couple frames over just swimming through it normally. And the second thing is you just want to steer clear of those stretch boosts and not bump into any walls, because that can kill your momentum as well pretty easily. All right, so we see SuperSonic and Rupert pretty much neck and neck right now, making their way through 3-9. So they want to build P-speed right away, and then carefully measure their jumps to just get over to that over the top of that H platform. So definitely get out those H's in chat.
Yeah, Rupert just sticking right along SuperSonic this whole way. World 3.
It looks like
Oh,
no.
and Proa.
Poor Proa just got eaten by Boss Bass. You definitely want to be careful with how you keep rhythm with those jumps when you're in the water, because the moment you stop for even a minute, it's very easy for Boss Bass to just catch right up to you.
You can see him trying to take him out, so he doesn't have to worry about him at all. Unfortunately, not able to hit him with that block. And as Small Mario especially, that can be tricky, but we see Rupert and SuperSonic both taking on this World 3 ship. Another nice little auto scroller. Just maintain, that fire flower and just watch out for enemies and bullet bills. Otherwise, a pretty simple level.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Wendy is, interestingly enough, one of the easier Koopalings to fire kill, but the hardest to jump kill normally. It's an easy fire kill because you're on a flat ground as soon as you enter the fight, making it very easy to measure your distance and shoot the fireballs in pairs until she's down. It's also one of the Koopalings whose patterns you don't really have to worry about too much, because she can be fought the exact same way each time. She just kind of runs to the left, and then you just make sure that you just shoot her down before she has a chance to do anything else. The downside of having to jump kill her, however, is the fact that she fires off rings with her wand that bounce around the room and never disappear until she's defeated. And as soon as she starts doing those moonwalk jumps, it's very easy to get caught off guard and take damage. So it looks like Rupert's doing the jump kill approach, and he doesn't have too much trouble with that. SuperSonic, on the other hand,
yeah, taking a ton of damage there, just getting hit by those rings that float around. Those rings stay in the level while you're taking her on, so it's managing where those rings are going and managing where she's jumping around so that you can take her out pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it looks like Pro is not too far off behind. He's going to be finishing up the Wendy fight as well very shortly. Meanwhile, SuperSonic and Rupert are going to be making their way to level 4-1.
By the way, if you're hanging out in chat and are interested in any of the other events that are going on, Smash and Splash coming up pretty soon. !bracket in chat, a little bit more information about all the events that are going on here. We've got Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario 64 still going on, and any of the other events that you want to check out. But also we got merch coming out, so type in !merch into chat. Check that out.
All right, so we just saw a really impressive strat from Rupert and SuperSonic. They were both able to pull it off in 4-1, and it just basically entails just building early P speed, and then just using that speed to boost your way past the waterfall onto the upper platforms, and then you could just do 2 large leaps that'll bring you straight to the exit pipe. Didn't look like they have too much trouble with 4-2 either. So they're going to be coming up on 4-3 as soon as Rupert finishes this sledge bro pretty easily. And it's going to be one of the the more aesthetically appealing levels to speedrun in the game. It's not really something that I can really describe too well in detail, but it would just be really fun to watch this.
Trask in chat asking, what's the most painful RNG in the entire run?
It's a good question.
That's a toughie. I'm having difficulty trying to answer that.
I wouldn't necessarily call this RNG, but there is some instances where you're gonna have to clip through through certain walls in the game, especially in World 7. There is an element of luck to it, but really it's just a matter of what your subpixel value is going into that level. That'll affect your luck as you're trying to make your way through there, and that could either kill a run or also save a ton of time, depending on how early you're able to get those clips. It is possible to manipulate, but it's really not worth going for unless you're say tassing the game.
Roopert, unfortunately not able to maintain that fire flower. Will be able to get the kill there as small Mario. Supersonic picking up that fire flower as he makes his way through here.
Yeah, it looks like Supersonic took a... I'm sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I was just going to say Supersonic was taking a safer approach to the first fort, rather than just afford the risk of taking damage from either that hot foot or the thwomp. He took the pipes to just circumvent that path.
Roopert getting hit by a cheeky spike ball from Lakitu just out of nowhere, kind of. You couldn't even see where Lakitu is at, so you had no way of figuring out if you were going to get hit or not. So unfortunate for Roopert. Maybe a little RNG, maybe a little just a little bit of bad luck. But able to take out Lakitu there, so you won't have to worry about it this time around. Oh, well, pops up again though, unfortunately.
Yeah, some of those Lakitus can be pretty ruthless with the way they can just snipe you with their spiny eggs. So it's definitely good to keep an eye out for them when you're in the water. Interestingly enough, the way they throw their spinies is not RNG. That's going to be dependent on how you move around in the water. Depends on how high you are and what your swimming rhythm is. So if you're doing it 100% consistently, you never have to worry about that. But how often do you really see runners be able to pull off the exact same swims each time? All right, so you're going to see Roopert going through and Supersonic going through level 4-5. It's definitely the best alternative path you can take, especially if you need to pick up power-ups along the way, because you'll be able to pick up that mushroom, as we just saw, as well as the fire flower, and you're gonna need both of them in order to get through 4-6 and the second fort optimally, especially when you want to fire kill that boom boom. Alright, so it looks like Pro is making his way through 4-4, no problem so far with the Lakitu. We have early P-Speed from Supersonic, and he's just cruising right along here, not taking any damage. He's able to dodge the big Goomba and the Piranha Plant. And he's going to be ending with, looks like a 293 exit, which is definitely very solid time for this level. And we're going to be seeing Roopert following up shortly.
Yeah, Pro back there, speaking of those spikes from Lakitu, Pro getting hit by one of them. Interesting though, he didn't even try to avoid it, kind of taking a strategic death there. That's one thing that you see here in Super Mario Bros. 3. You can take, as long as you've got a fire flower or raccoon tail, you can take a couple of strategic deaths in this run for the sake of speed. Not something that you really see in any other game.
Yeah, it looks like Pro had opted to grab the raccoon tail and midway through 4-6. Unfortunately, yeah, he didn't have that fire flower in the beginning, which would be a good opportunity to clear a path for you, because you want to get rid of those two big Koopas in the beginning. But it was also good that he had that safety strat so that he can make his way over to the end pretty smoothly. So we're going to be coming up on the slowest airship in the game. So if you want to take a bathroom break or go grab some popcorn or something, that would definitely be a good opportunity to do so.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while. This is questionably or arguably one of the longer ships in the game. You know, you've got other ships that, you know, they scroll by faster, but they're because of the time difference of, you know, how long it takes. Those ones are technically longer. This one just at a snail's pace.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're going to see Pro making his way through the second fort in World 4 right before the airship. So, yeah, he wasn't able to build that early P speed in the beginning. It's one of the more meticulous strats because you have to be really careful about how you board those steps right in the beginning, and then hope that you don't get frame ruled as you're making your way across those donut lifts. But otherwise, it was a pretty straightforward level. Yeah, he's going to be joining Supersonic and Rupert on that airship very shortly.
Just for reference, between these guys, their PBs, Rupert has a 1:14.14, Supersonic has a 1:18.45, and Pro has a 1:19.19. So we'll want to see all these guys hopefully get under a 120 here. Between 1:15 and a 1:20 is a pretty decent time for SMB3 races.
Yeah, even if you fall behind your PB by maybe like a minute or two, it's still you have to understand that because it's a no reset run, you don't really have that luxury. So any opportunity where we're able to see them pull up some backup strats for anything that comes up along the way, that's always a good display as well.
Rupert and Supersonic still neck and neck, keeping right alongside each other during this time trial. Proa still on the ship though.
Yeah, it looks like he opted to take the raccoon tail instead of keeping his fire flower. So we'll be seeing how he makes use of that in the upcoming levels. Yeah, just from speculating, I'm assuming that he's going to be using that tail to make his way over to glide over that long gap that's going to be coming right up, and that'll be able to allow him to avoid getting into those small spaces where those Spitfires could possibly get him. Iggy's one of the trickier Koopa Lane fights in the game, just because he has some pretty jumpy patterns. Alright, so it looks like Rupert's making his way through 5-2, and he's able to optimally bounce that first note block and bring him to that first pipe as soon as possible. So the rest of the level is just going to be a matter of just sliding your way to the end. And it's interesting to note that the speed that you gain from sliding down a slope is going to be very slightly faster than having just normal P speed running.
Yeah, Supersonic able to hit that. You know, it's interesting. Those blocks are so easy to miss. So the ability for these guys to get this precise movement to land on those note blocks is really impressive.
Indeed. So yeah, we're making our way through 5-4, and it's just a matter of running forward. The rotor discs are never going to be in your way as long as you're maintaining that speed, and then the thwomps are high enough so that you're never really that much in danger of them. Unfortunately, Supersonic took some damage along the way and lost his P speed going through 5-3, which is definitely something you don't want to happen. It is possible to maintain P speed through that second pipe, but worst case scenario, you're at least able to get another power up along the way.
As we see Supersonic picking up that mushroom, he'll want to pick up something else along the way here. Might have to wait till the next level. Rupert taking a hit, losing Fire Flower. We'll pick one up though.
Alright, so he just wants to maintain that Fire Flower for the remainder of this level, which he was able to do. And that's going to come in handy, not just for the tower, but for the levels that are going to be coming up in Skyworld. So Supersonic is finishing up the last Hammer Bro here. Deciding to take the safer approach and just let him take that second level over.
Well, and you see exactly why Rupert wanted that fire flower. He was able to take care of those, you know, Hammer Bros a lot more quick than Supersonic, who had to take a little bit of extra time because you didn't have that fire flower. So again, you know, maintaining these items are just crucially important.
Yeah, without a doubt. So it looks like Rupert's able to build that P speed through the first part of the tower, and he's going to want to keep it making his way past these those swamps. So those are definitely the most important rooms in the tower. So if he lost it at any other point, it wouldn't be too much of a loss. But it doesn't look like he's going to have a problem with that. Actually, I spoke too soon. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be ending off with either a 278 or a 279 exit pipe, which is definitely good for a tower, generally speaking.
Supersonic, unfortunately, is getting hit by that thwomp there.
Alright, so 5-4, not everyone's favorite level. There is some careful jumps, measured jumps you have to make in order to avoid just landing on those spinners and then just getting a delayed A press, which is definitely something that's pretty common when you're boarding spinners. So we're making our way through 5-2. The optimal strat here would be to do a turn back on that first block that Mario was standing on, and then just trying to build P speed just by doing small jumps over those enemies that are in your way, and that would potentially be able to save you a second and a half. But personally, I don't really go for it just because it's so risky with that Paragoomba right around the corner. Alright, so it looks like Rupert's making his way through 5-6, which is going to be another auto-scroller. It's not terribly difficult, it's just a matter of boarding these paratroopers and bouncing on note blocks just in a measured way. I do believe he's able to get a power-up along the way. That would be a raccoon tail, so we'll be keeping an eye out to see how he's going to use that tail in the next coming stages. Meanwhile, Pro is making his way through the tower, and Supersonic having no trouble at all with 5-4.
Yeah, everyone playing pretty well thus far. Nothing major to talk about. Just looking at strats, just maintaining that P speed, like we're saying.
All right, so Rupert has that tail going into 5-7, so we'll be seeing if he's going to hold on to it or if he's going to potentially damage boost and try and grab that fire flower, which he looks like he's going to be doing. It's not the easiest thing to do, to damage boost and then rub against that that wall to get that fire flower, and then you're able to maintain your P speed doing frame perfect jumps on those wooden blocks. It's not very common that you're successful in doing that backup strat, but it is definitely possible. Looks like he took some damage as soon as he got that fire flower, so he won't be able to fire kill Boom Boom. But we will be able to see some swag P speed coming right up as he makes his way over these platforms. So as long as he doesn't make his way into the Ragu, he shouldn't have too much trouble, and he was able to despawn the dry bones right below that pipe.
Rupert taking care of his Boom Boom fairly quickly. Nothing too difficult there.
So it looks like Supersonic took damage. He lost his fire tail in 5. Speed through level 3, 5-8, I want to say. Yeah, 5-8. So you just want to land flush with those first 3 platforms in the beginning, and then just carry your P speed to the end of the level, steering clear of those last 2 Koopas, and then just doing one long jump into that exit pipe. So we're going to be coming across our last auto-scroller in World 5. He's able to maneuver those fire snakes pretty easily. So definitely doesn't want to take any damage here because Yeah, you never want, once again, you never want to die in one of these auto-scrollers. Those will definitely cost you the most amount of time.
Apologies for the technical difficulties. Shout outs to our restreamer, Milo. All of our restreamers working hard to give you this great content, all the races and everything like that, update and night doing this. So thank you to Milo for getting that fixed.
All right, so we're going to be coming up on Roy Koopa in the World 5 airship. You never really have to worry too much about Roy Koopa's Koopa Link fight pattern, because more often than less, he's just going to walk towards you and then just bump right into that first ledge, and then just kind of hang there for a couple seconds. So that'll be a good opportunity to just bop him right in the face 10 times with your fireballs. Doesn't look like Roopert's going to have that opportunity to do so, because the only power-up he's going to get was just that mushroom. But nonetheless, it shouldn't be too difficult to jump kill him. He's just going to have to watch out for the fact that every time that Roy gets hit, he's going to try and do these little earthquakes on the ground. So he's going to want to time his jumps accordingly so that he doesn't get stun locked. Meanwhile, Pro is finishing up the second fort in World 5. He's able to get that smooth fire kill on Boom Boom.
Yeah, Roopert taking on this boss in World 5, able to manage that ship pretty fairly, and Supersonic falling closely behind. Proa barely managing to avoid those Lakitu spikes. Was in between a rock and a hard place there for a moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't able to build that P-speed right in the beginning, so that made the encounter with Lakitu and those spinies towards the end a little bit more risky, and it did cost him a little bit of time. But he did the next best thing, which was to take a more conservative approach and just make sure he maintains that fire flower, because it'll definitely come in use, especially when you're wanting to deal with these fire snakes in 5-9. You're able to snipe them down before they even come up on the screen, or at least the first one you can. And then you're able to bait the second one so that it just flies right above your, right below your feet, and then it just kind of self-stomps.
Wow, Roopert doing a really nice job maintaining P-speed and avoiding those spikes coming from those piranha plants.
Yeah, World 6, you really have to watch out, because this is going to be the part of the game where the difficulty really ramps up, especially if you're doing 100%. At least in Warpless, there's going to be a handful of levels where you either use a P-wing or you're going to use the raccoon tail to fly over half the level. So half of World 6 would ordinarily be an autopilot mindset, but here you're going to have to be careful with how you execute the PC speed, and then just make sure that you don't take any damage along the way, because that fire flower is going to definitely be helpful in the next coming levels.
Yeah, we see Roopert taking on this auto-scroller here. Again, just making use of every spot that you're in, making sure that you're maintaining your position well, you're aware of your surroundings.
So yeah, because Supersonic didn't have that fire flower, he wasn't able to clear a path for himself to start building P-speed and then just do the leaps past the piranha plants and their spike eggs. So he was able to do the next best thing, which was to pick up a raccoon leaf and then just safely make his way to the end. Meanwhile, Pro is not too far behind. He's going to be finishing up Roy Koopa as well. And looks like Roopert's going to be making his way to level 6-3, so there is one tricky P-speed strat that just involves running across multiple small gaps and then doing a fire kill on one of the enemies just to have a path open for you to build P-speed. It's one of the trickier strats in the game, and definitely one of the most costly if it's not successful. But otherwise, even if you just do normal platform jumping, you can end with a 289 card, so that's really not the end of the world either. It looks like he's making his way through the fort pretty easily. He was able to damage boost through that spike bed, and then do a star kill on Boom Boom. The only opportunity you're gonna see any of the runners do that over the course of this run.
Roopert with the nice Boom Boom kill there. Small Mario gonna need to maintain his position here, possibly pick up a mushroom when available.
So yeah, rather than have to worry about how to execute those fire strats, it looks like Proa took a star into level 6-1 in order to build that P-speed and then have nothing to worry about for the first half of the level. And then he took the lower end and then just sniped out those piranha flowers on the ground. So Roopert is making his way through 6-4 as Small Mario, which is pretty par for the course. He wants to land on that P-switch and then just board those platforms, avoiding the fire snakes and spinners along the way. And he's going to end with a 287 exit, which is a pretty solid time. Didn't look like Supersonic was able to get over that first wall in 6-3. But he does have his raccoon tail, so he'll have some safety along the way to make sure that he's getting across those pretty large gaps. It looks like Pro is finishing up by fire killing the first Hammer Bros. Alright, so it looks like Roopert's going to be using his P-Wing to enter 6-5. So this is going to be one of the more unique puzzle levels in the game, where you have to pretty much find the exit. It's not going to be as simple as going from left to right to get to the exit. This one's going to be hidden on the ceiling. The optimal strat for this would be to start building speed as much as you can, and then carry it with you, taking out the enemies along the Buster Beetles along the way. Unfortunately, he took damage, so he had to go back in get another raccoon tail. But normally, if you enter the level with the P-Wing, you can generate enough speed by generating that clear path for you, and then jumping from that downward slope. And with enough luck, you'd be able to despawn one of the two nippers. So that'll open up a path for you to get the earliest exit possible.
Yeah.
So
Roopert, unfortunately, taking that damage, having to come back, completely losing a bit of time there.
Didn't look like Supersonic opted to do the P-Wing strat. It looks like he just went into it as Small Mario. So he's gonna get those two power-ups in that one room and then shortly follow suit. Meanwhile, Pro is making his way through the fort, so he's going to be doing the damage boost on the spike bed as well, and it looks like he's preparing himself so that he could do the star kill on Boom Boom. 6-6, we see Roopert making his way through fairly well. He has a 272 exit pipe, which is definitely solid. Definitely a time that I would be happy with. The optimal way to, or at least the conventional wisdom would be to enter that level while you're Small Mario, and then start building P-speed along those early hills, and then just do power swims as soon as you enter the water. And then if you're fast enough, you'd be able to despawn one of the piranha plants in those series of pipes towards the end of the level. But it looks like he entered there big, so it looks like he entered that area as Big Mario.
Ooh, and Roopert taking a death there. A little bit of a rage pause from that death.
Yeah,
that's to go back through 6-7.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It didn't look like he was too far into level 6-7, so it shouldn't be a terrible loss, but it's definitely not something you feel good about nonetheless. So it looks like Supersonic is entering 6-6 with the raccoon tail. We'll see how he approaches doing the swimming area. Didn't look like he built P-speed going through that water, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. He at least has that extra health from being big that he could fall back on in case anything should happen. Didn't look like he got the despawn on that upside down piranha plant, but he's making his way through there pretty smoothly. He's able to bounce his way past those green spike guys. Looks like Pro is looking to take a pit stop in one of the toad houses to pick up an item. We'll see how he makes use of that.
Well, he'll pick up the famous suit there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't see which toad house it was. So yeah, that will always give you a hammer suit regardless how you enter that toad house. So my only guess is that he's going to be saving that for World 8 so that he could get a quick kill on Bowser.
Now the key thing with World 8, oh no, and Roopert not able to get that P speed and maintain it.
Oh no.
Taking a death will have to use an item, but yeah, that hammer suit is important because at the end it's the quickest way to kill Bowser. You know, you can use Fire Flower to kill him, but obviously if you have that suit, it's the quickest way to do it.
Yeah, plus you shoot the fireballs in pairs, and it takes 35 fireballs to kill Bowser as opposed to 4 hammers. So it would save you about 5 seconds total.
Which is definitely more optimal than the only other strategy, really, which is to have Bowser crush the floor, which feels like it takes an eternity sometimes.
Yeah, I want to say that's roughly 20 seconds over slower than just doing a fire kill.
We're not to World 8 yet. We're still in World 6. Roopert with a decent lead so far.
Yeah, it looks like Supersonic is making his way pretty solidly through 6F2. He was able to carefully measure his jumps when he has the P-speed with the tail. He was able to just glide under those passages, no problem. Meanwhile, Roopert is making his way through, I want to say 6-9. So he was able to use a P-wing and then just fly over that wall. So he's going to be using that tail to carry him with to damage boost in the beginning, and then he's going to use that P-speed to carry him towards the end. Yeah, normally the optimal route would be to do 6-10 first, so that way you would be able to get a quick fire flower grab right in the beginning. But it looks like Roopert decided to take an alternative strat that he felt more comfortable with, which was absolutely no problem. So he's going to do those pretty solid jump kill on Boom Boom, and then next he'll most likely be picking up a Fire Flower along the way in 6-10, and that's definitely going to help him along the way as soon as he enters World 7. He's going to want to hold on to that power up.
Well, Supersonic getting that 3-up with the Fire Flower. Pretty lucky, and Proa maintaining that P-speed as we talked about before. You know, right here is where Roopert took a death, unfortunately, but Proa able to manage it pretty nicely. Supersonic picking up that cheeky Fire Flower there.
Yeah, Sonic is having no problem just navigating past those Buster Beetles. They can cause quite a bit of lag for him the way they throw those ice blocks. So it's one of those levels that are very easy to just drop your A presses and just fall right to your death without intending on that. So it looks like he's carrying that Fire Flower into 6F3, and he's gonna want to hold on to that so that he can fire kill Boom Boom and then just make his way to over to Lemmy. And that Fire Flower is definitely going to be playing an important role as soon as he enters level 7-2, but we'll get to that. Unfortunately, he short jumped a little bit and then fell right into that spike bed. So he's not going to get that fire kill, but he will still be ending the fort with a pretty solid time. It looks like Roopert was able to show off a little bit of swag in that airship. He was able to clip into that area, so he'll have 15 seconds to just sit idly by and do nothing and not have to worry about any of those Spitfires on the bottom.
Well, and that's the nice thing about these ship levels. You know, you can get into these areas, and, you know, you can't see where Mario is at, but you're pretty well safe, so you don't really have to manage it too much.
We have Proa making his way past the Buster Beetles in 6-10, and he's going to be ending on a pretty solid note as well. Roopert gets the pretty easy jump kills on Lemmy Koopa. He's another Koopaling where you don't really have to worry about his fight patterns if you're just going for a jump kill, because he's just going to stay up on the right side of that wall the entire time. And as soon as you're keeping rhythm with as you bounce on those green balls, he'll always stay in place and he'll always leave himself open to get stomped 3 times. Getting the fire kill is a little bit more meticulous, just because I mean, there's 2 ways you can normally go about it. One of which would be just to bounce on the shell when it's in that crouch state, or you could just shoot him off in pairs right in front of his face and then just carefully time them so that you don't take damage as he's moving forward.
Well, right here, 3rd try, Roopert getting that 7-1 clip.
Very impressive.
Very
stuff.
Infamous, yeah. That'll save him a ton of time getting it on the 3rd try.
Yeah, ordinarily when you enter level 7-1, it takes about 50 to 51 seconds to get through pretty optimally. But if you're able to get that clip on the 1st try, it'll save you about 36 seconds. So you have no choice but to really take a shot at it. Because even if you miss it about like 8 or 9 times, you're still saving time over doing it normally. So it looks like Roopert had a little trouble building P-speed in the beginning with that star. Looks like he got frame rolled on that platform. So now that he took damage and he's Small Mario, he wants to steer clear of those fire piranhas, which he was able to do. He lost a little bit of time along the way, but it wasn't the worst case scenario, which would be falling into that larger gap and having to build a note bridge. So he still saved time overall.
Sonic going for his 7-1 clip. Now, how many clips do you need to do for you to finally make even? Him getting there on the 5th try.
Well, it looks like Scott got it in 3. Roopert got it in 3 tries.
Yep.
So when you say break even, you mean like compared to doing it normally?
Yep.
Oh, you still have like 13 or 14 tries before you really have to start worrying about that.
Right. Yeah. So SuperSonic able to get it on the 5th try there. Losing a little bit of time off Roopert, who got it in 3.
So you definitely want to enter the P-Wing as you're entering 7-5. You want to grab one of those Koopa shells as soon as you enter the level, and then you're going to want to clear a path for yourself as you go back down, and then carry another Koopa shell with you as you go back up. So he wants to be careful with these ice blocks so he doesn't kill one of the Koopas along the way. He's going to make his way up there, and then similar to what we saw in the pyramid, you have that little bit of invincibility between you and the wall when that shell ricochets. So he's going to boost past there and then just skip over the rest of the path that you would normally have to take going through the stage the old-fashioned way. So he doesn't have to worry about those invisible blocks right below him, and he's able to fly straight to the exit. So pretty solid stuff from Roopert. Meanwhile, SuperSonic is making his way through 7-3. It doesn't matter.
Pro able to get that clip on the 4th try.
Oh, very good stuff from off the racers. So SuperSonic will be following suit by doing his P-Wing as well in 7-5. Roopert is making his way through 7-4 now, which is probably one of the longest auto-scrollers in the game, and the way those fish spawn and the blooper spawn in the water is definitely RNG. So depending on where and what they do and how they move on the way those sprites can just fill up, you could cause a lot of frame drops, and that can cost you a couple seconds along the way. And there's nothing you could really do about it.
And here we have nice little jellyfish minefield for Roopert.
So Roopert used one of his P-Wings when he took that death in 6F2, so he's going to want to hold on to his tail for when he enters the fort, and how he's going to handle 7-6. So he's being really careful here to avoid those bloopers.
D whatever with the fat raid, 71, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, welcome.
Hope that runs went well today for you. Do whatever, running that Super Mario 64, was that pace. Participated in that 120 race between himself, Siglemic, and Punkay, and Cheese. Really good. Glad to have you here.
All right, so Pro and Supersonic are still making their way through 7-4. So sea creatures are in full effect.
Yeah, these water levels were always the bane of my childhood existence. Just how slow they are, and how the jellyfish and the squids and the cheeps just come at you. So even for runners to be able to do this is impressive.
Alright, so it looks like Pro opted to get one of the fire flowers in 7-4, so since he's able to snipe out those bloopers and fish along the way, that'll be able to spare him from a lot of dropped frames and a lot of lag. So he's able to take out that boss pass. So as long as he has some form of flight on reserve, especially going into the next fort and for level 7-6, you shouldn't have too much to worry about. When you're using your P-Wings throughout the game as efficiently as possible, and you're able to hold on to your Raccoon Tail from the P-Wing used in 7.5 as you're making your way through 7.4, you will eventually have one extra P-Wing left over as you're making your way past the fort in 7.6. And pretty often you'll see runners use it in level 7-9 to skip over half of the maze in 7.9, which we'll be seeing soon. So Rupert's making his way through 7-8. He's taking his Raccoon Tail and Star with him, so we'll be seeing which path he takes. So he didn't go down the pipe to where that hammer suit is, but he's doing the next best thing, which is just to have some carefully timed tail whips. He's able to make his way past the nippers and end off with a very solid time.
Yeah, using that star really wisely, just powering through, and then see 7-7 not opting for that clip there.
Yeah, he's not gonna. There's three ways that you can go through the level. First of which is going to be the old-fashioned way, just making your way through the maze you normally would. The second one would be using either a P-Wing or a Raccoon Tail to build P-speed, and then just fly over that first half of the maze. And then the third of which would be the most risky, but it would be the fastest if you're actually successful with it, and that would be clipping through all the bottom legs of the maze. So if you're able to get four clips out of 4 of those walls, you would end with about a 283 pipe, which would definitely be the most optimal.
And obviously that's what you use in runs, but here in a race, Rupert opting not to do any of those clips at all, just going vanilla on it.
So it looks like Rupert's going to take another risky approach, or at least he was going to, and that was in 7-7. He was going to try and build P-speed so that he could do a crouch jump that would allow him to clip through the top left corner pixel of that entrance pipe, and then that would allow him to clip straight to the exit, which would save him about a pretty significant chunk of time. It's not really something you would see runners ordinarily go for unless they were going for a world record, but if in the off chance that you are successful with it, it's very swaggy.
Well, it looked like, and including with that 7-7 clip, it looked like he went for it one time to try and see if he can get on the first try, but then as soon as he didn't get it, he just moved right along.
Yeah, the conventional wisdom for an ordinary one would be just to give it 1 or 2 shots, and if you're not successful with it still, then just don't dwell on it, just keep going.
Well, and again, just every single time you miss it, you waste time, so you risk, getting it the first try would be awesome, or even the second or third try, but then how much time are you wasting? And, ooh, Supersonic getting that first one on the first go.
All right, he's going for the clips.
And then he'll move on.
If you're going to go for the clips, you want to go for at least the first 2, and then if you start having more trouble along the way, then you could just take the safer approach and then just go through the rest of the maze normally. And you've already bypassed the bulk of it, so you wouldn't be losing too much time overall. So 265 is pretty much average, so it doesn't really have too much to worry about as far as that's concerned.
Really cool to be able to see that clip, though. There in 7-7, it's pretty. I mean, you don't see it too often in these races just because of how risky it is.
All right, so Supersonic is making his way through 7F2 as well. He's trying his best to maintain the Fire Flower as much as he can, and one of the safer way to do that is to grab a star right in the beginning. So he makes his way through the first room pretty smoothly. So he wants to make his way past the dry bones and the rotodisc while not taking any damage. Easier said than done. And really impressive stuff. He was able to maneuver that pretty easily. So we have a nice fire kill on Boom Boom. So Rupert is on the World 7 airship, which is the longest one in the game, but it's also the one airship where you're able to pick up 2 power-ups along the way. So if you enter it small, it's no big deal. So we saw him damage boost in 7F2. So you could just pick up a mushroom and then a fire flower right afterwards. So he's going to want to hold on to that for the rest of World 8.
Yeah, World 8, obviously the toughest world to go through. It's really important to have these items and hang on to them as long as you possibly can. Play it safe though. Able to get through this airship pretty nicely. And Supersonic following suit as well.
Alright, so Pro is going to be entering 7F2 with the Fire Flower and Star. So we'll see if he's going to... No, he's not going to pick up that second one. He's going to make his way past those piranhas, past the thwomp. We'll see if he can hold on to it as he makes his way to Boom Boom. Getting a little caught up along the way. He's taking his time, but that's no problem because we definitely don't want to take damage.
Really nice kill there from Rupert. Able to get that wand and he'll move right along.
Alright, so Pro is baiting the thwomps to coming out so that he can make a safe passage as it's making its way back up. Alright, so Rupert finishes Ludwig Koopa, which is the second Koopa, the Koopa lane that does the Quake jumps as soon as you do the jump kills. It's definitely one of the trickier fire kills in the game, but it's not something I would personally feel comfortable with doing, so there's definitely no harm in doing the jump kills as far as that goes.
Well, as Rupert makes his way into World 8, 8-1, another simple, well, not simple, but nice little auto scroller here. Just gotta maintain your position, watch for these cannonballs coming at you.
Yeah, normally the general approach for these tank auto scrollers would just be to stay in the front as much as possible and then just jump and then fire kill stuff as needed. There's no reason to really stay as far to the back as you can because you don't want to get tripped up by the way the bombs move around on the ground.
Well, he's just doing a really nice job of maintaining his position, taking out any enemy that he can with that fire flower there. Opting not to pick up that leaf.
Yeah,
the fire.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep that fire flower because you're gonna have a Boom Boom coming up in the Navy, and then you're gonna want to have that fire open to clear some paths for you as you make your way through the hands. And then you have another Boom Boom coming up on the Air Force, so you're just gonna be saving a good chunk of time just from that alone. Yeah, as you're just speedrunning SMB3 in general, the fire flower is definitely one of your best friends.
Well, it's just so useful as long as you're able to be accurate with it, you know. It takes out just about every single enemy in the game, so definitely important to hang on to that. As Rupert moves on to this Navy auto scroller.
Yeah, you'll notice that one item box that was right in the beginning of the Navy, that also contains a fire flower. So if if at any point you either had a raccoon tail or you took damage along the way, there is a strat that's not entirely free, but it would require some pretty careful jumping, especially because that small clutch where you would normally grab that fire has a good tendency to push you out, just because that's just the nature of the way the game scrolls. If you do have a raccoon tail, you're able to build P-speed and then just fly up right into that clutch, which definitely comes in handy when you're doing any % no wrong warp runs.
Proa jumping into World 8 here, taking on these tanks.
So now that Rupert's finishing up the Navy, maybe it would be a good opportunity for chat to start getting their predictions in on how many hands they're going to be getting. As we discussed before, hands don't really swing a race in terms of since you're going to be completing each of the stages anyway. But each of those hand animations that you get on the map cost about 1.5 seconds each, so you still want to opt to manually enter the levels whenever you can. Going through the first hand optimally costs about 16 seconds, the second hand is about 15, and the third one is 19.
So far, Roopert not getting a single hand yet. And he will get that last hand. So close to having really nice RNG.
Really good stuff. He's able to maintain that P-speed through the rest of that hand.
So Roopert is on a really nice pace to finish up first.
Making our way onto the Air Force, which I'm sure a lot of you who played this game as a kid probably dreaded at some point. You definitely want to be careful and jump as soon as you can, because you want to be ahead of those rocky wrenches, because you don't want to have a bunch of wrenches on the screen just potentially causing some lag for you and just making your screen a lot tougher to maneuver generally. You don't have to worry about that when you have the Fire Flower, because they're very easy to snipe as soon as you board that platform. But you don't really have that same luxury when, say, you had a hammer suit and then the projectiles shoot on that upward arch pattern. So yeah, it's a pretty easy game of whack-a-mole, and then we make our way over to that quick boom boom kill. So really good stuff coming from Roopert, and Supersonic not too far behind, able to maintain that P-speed in the third hand. Pro is making his way with the Fire Flower on the Navy, so he'll be joining our racers on the hand bridge very soon. Roopert, he entered 8-1 with the star, which is a pretty safe measure if you want to have that P-speed going into that blue section right there, which ordinarily you would want to do. Unfortunately, he got a little tripped up by the bullet bills, but you're able to maintain that P-speed past where those cannons were, and then you could carry that speed right with you to the exit and get you a 289 to 290 exit card. But yeah, it's not the easiest strat in the world, so we'll see how he's able to handle 8-2. Normally, if you have a hammer suit going into this level, you would be able to snipe out the Angry Sun. But it's always good to know how to handle it with the Fire Flower as well, because you definitely want to be able to take out those fire piranhas. Unfortunately, he took a little bit of damage there, but at least he'll be able to have that pipe going up in the next World 8 fort, so it won't be too out of his way.
And he'll pick up a raccoon tail there.
Yeah, it's good to have that raccoon tail as a safety measure in case he wants to damage boost past those roto discs.
He'll pick up that Fire Flower as well. Again, as we said before, Fire Flower really important to have in certain situations. Can make the run a lot easier.
So he's made his way to the P-switch area right now, and he's going to want to enter that door to where the boom boom is, and he's gonna want to do a 1 cycle there, so he doesn't have to do that switch again. And he's able to get it, no problem. So we'll be wrapping up boom boom, and Roopert will be making his way over to Super Tank. And similar to what we saw with the first tank auto-scroller, he's just going to want to stay in the front row and then just jump and then shoot whenever it's necessary. Let's say if he needs to board the next tank or if he wants to knock out some rocky wrenches.
Supersonic able to manage that angry sun in a similar way to Roopert, but hanging on to that fire flower, he'll use Star here, get past these rotodiscs.
Wow, he's able to get a crouch jump into that small crevice and enter the doorway a little bit early. So he's making his way past the conveyor belt, and we'll see if he gets that 1 cycle on the P-switch as well. And it looks like he did it.
Wow.
Good stuff.
And Pro taking care of this boom boom. Boom boom's pretty simple, not too difficult as long as we're able to stay on top of them the whole time.
Yeah, even if you have to do a jump kill on boom boom, he's not too difficult. But you do want to get those jumps in right away because he can cause some problems for you as soon as he starts to take flight. So we get another fire kill on boom boom. Roopert's finishing up the super tank, and he's going to be making his way over to wrap things up at Bowser's Castle. So so Bowser's Castle takes about 50 seconds to a minute, so he should be on pace.
Clip.
And he gets that first elevator clip, so that'll save him about 1.5 seconds. So as soon as he finishes up Bowser, he'll be on pace for a mid 116. Really good stuff.
Really nice run here from Roopert. He'll be about 2 minutes off his PB. But he'll be certainly happy with a 116 time. That'll qualify him. And as long as these guys can pretty much stay under 120, they'll qualify for this tournament.
Yeah, even if worst case scenario, Roopert took damage and had to fight Bowser the old-fashioned way by breaking those bricks, he would still have a pretty secure time for this bracket. And Supersonic will be wrapping things up as well in Bowser's Castle. And it looks like he's going to use that hammer suit that he grabbed earlier. So we'll be seeing a nice quick kill. And he gets the elevator clip as well. Very nice stuff.
Yeah, 116.30 for Roopert. But we'll get to see, like you said, we'll get to see that quick kill from Supersonic here as long as he's able to maintain this.
Yeah, everybody get your GGs out for Roopert and Supersonic as he finishes up as well. So I presume we're going to be doing interviews, but we're just going to wait until everyone else wraps up before, and we'll get them all together.
Yeah, and there's that quick kill from Supersonic. Again, all it takes is 4 hammers. I'm just waiting on Proa now. So Supersonic and Roopert both securing a spot in that bracket. We just got one more. We got a couple more, races later. We got one at 4 o'clock today, and then we've got one at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And qualifying for these brackets.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Tonight we're going to be seeing races. We're going to be seeing qualifier heats from the Haxer and Dodge Master Dually, so you'll definitely not want to miss that. Get your GGs out for Supersonic as he finishes things up in Bowser's Castle. Pro is making his way to the Super Tank. We'll be finishing that up as well.
we'll see Pro finish up here. And he'll put on his hammer suit. Get that quick kill again.
Do a nice little turn back on the statues to just make sure he doesn't fall in the line of fire of those beams.
Yeah, I decided not to go with that first glitch or clip through the wall. He'll look at the clip here.
Gets the people's clip on the first try. I do believe this that one-up clip strat is also highlighted in the Nintendo Power Guide as well. So we don't see any P speed in the statue room, but he's making his way over the donut loops, no problem, and then going to be finishing up Bowser right now. So get your GGs out for proa007 as well, and we'll be starting interview shortly.
Looks like he'll finish just under 120 here. This cutscene takes a little bit of time, unfortunately, at the end of the run.
So Pro will be finishing off with an official time of 1:19:44.
Well, GG's to all three of these guys qualifying for their bracket. Again, we'll have to wait for the rest of these time trial qualifier runs to finish up to see where they're at, but all three of these guys will be making it through. So we'll see if we can get these guys into the booth. Just get a little quick interview from them, and then we'll head on out. We have another race here in just over half an hour, so if you have the spare time, or if you're not doing anything, go check out a couple of other runners in the meantime, and we'll be back at 6 o'clock. But we'll see if we can get these. We got SuperSonic here.
Hello.
Hi, welcome SuperSonic. GG on your qualifier heat.
Thanks.
So how do you think you did?
I actually got a PB in this run, even though I had some questionable moments.
Oh yeah. So GG's to SuperSonic. Yeah, he definitely got a PB with that 1:17:25. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, really good stuff. So yeah, no race can ever necessarily be perfect. You're always going to encounter hiccups along the way, and another element of speedrunning is knowing how you're able to handle that. And it looks like you did a pretty solid job overall. So is there anything else you would want to particularly change about this run? Just to highlight?
Forgetting to use the P-Wing on 6-6. I completely botched it. Like, right as I got in there, I realized that I forgot to put on the P-Wing, so I had to like get the leaf. And I ended up using the P-Wing in 6-7, I believe, so...
Yeah, that was an unfortunate moment. You definitely want to get those D-spawns in 6-5, so you can get a clear path past those nippers.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like you had any real catastrophic moments overall, so really good job to you overall.
Now Rupert, you're coming in first there with the 1:16:30, taking a couple deaths. Any comments on that? Is Rupert there? I don't know, something might be wrong with the mic.
Yeah, we don't hear you, Rupert.
Yeah, we'll wait for Rupert. But Proa, you did qualify just 30 seconds above your, just a little under 30 seconds above your PB.
Proa, are you with us?
Okay.
All right. We apologize for the technical difficulties.
There you go.
We hear you now. Yep, we hear you. So, Pro, a really good job on your qualifier heat as well. Did you have any?
Can't hear you guys.
Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Here.
All right. So while they're getting that set up, SuperSonic, I was meaning to ask you. As soon as these, as we're making our way past...
it was.
I'm sorry?
It was more like 40 seconds.
Oh, a 40-second improvement over your PB. Really good stuff. Yeah, I didn't have the list of PBs right in front of me, but yeah, really good stuff.
a little bit of audio problems. Sorry about that, but so unfortunately, Pro can't hear us. We can hear him, and Rupert, we can't hear him at all. But Supersonic, since we do have you here, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to say GG's to both Rupert and Proa for the race. It's been a lot of fun playing this, and looking forward to see how the rest of the qualifiers shape up from here.
Yeah, it was really fun for us to watch from our side as well. And as the seeding continues to develop, as we see how the bracket shapes up, do you have any ways you plan on continuing to practice? Is there anything that you want to really go back to and focus in on in the meantime?
All of World 6, pretty much.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
World 6 is definitely my weakest in 100%. As far as everything else goes, probably 7.5, and I had some hiccups in 7.4 as well, trying to keep the leaf. And I made it out of there small, so...
Yeah, 7.4 can be a real pain just because there's a lot of RNG involved in how those sea creatures spawn. And you definitely want to hold on to that raccoon tail as you're making your way to the fort in 7-6. Exactly. World 6 in general is just a thorn in everyone's side for anyone who does 100%. So not just for you, but for anybody else who runs 100%, it's definitely one of those things that you really need to hammer down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, SuperSonic116, pretty free, so we'll look forward to seeing you get a sub 117 here soon.
We'll give it a shot, thanks.
But yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, like I said, we can't hear Rupert or Proa, but Teeks, you got any other comments before we head out?
Yeah, I just wanted to leave off with one more reminder that we will be having a set of qualifier heats at 6 p.m. tonight, and we're going to be featuring the Haxer and Dodge Master Julie. They're two very solid runners, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. So definitely stick around for the next half hour, and then we'll be starting up really soon. Anything for you, Scotch?
Actually, here, Pro, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Now we got Pro on there. Hey. So how did you feel about that run?
Well, apart from dying in 3.8 and 5.6, I thought I did okay. The death in 5.6 was a horrible mistake. It was bad platforming by me, and that probably sunk my shot at a PB. Well,
you still qualified, so that's gotta feel pretty good.
Yeah, if I could get under 120, I thought I'd be doing pretty good, because I feel like I'm kind of on that cusp where I could really, a couple of good shakes, really put something really good together, something maybe, 117, 118, somewhere in there. It's feeling close. It's just got to execute, and those two deaths did hurt me today.
Yeah, 5.6 is one of those levels where it doesn't seem too bad on the surface, but it's definitely really scary because you have those really small platforms with those paratroopers that you have to watch out for, and those note blocks. And
I died at the end, which was the worst part. That really did stink me, and that did probably throw me in about a 45-second swing right there.
Yeah, dying at the end of an auto-scroller would generally cost you about 45 seconds to a minute, so it's definitely something you want to avoid. It's definitely one of the costly mistakes you can make in an SMB3 run. But I thought your performance overall was really solid, and I have no doubt that you'll get a 2-minute PB in the near future. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how more of your runs shape up. Is there anything else that you really wanted to focus in on as you continue practicing?
Probably just sort of trying to optimize some of these P-speed strats, ones where I could really make or break a run and really kind of get you to that next echelon, where I'm kind of on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Well, very cool. Thank you so much again, guys, for racing, and GGs to everyone. And again, big GGs to Supersonic on the big PB, over a minute there. But again, 6 o'clock we'll be back with some more SMB3, again, the Haxer, and Dodge Master Dooley. Me and Teeks and I will both be back in the commentary booth. Teeks, it was a pleasure commentating with you. I'll see you in a little bit, though.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. It was great commentating with you as well. Great job to our runners as well.
And watch out for Dooley. He's another one of those guys. He's kind of like me. He's getting better all the time, and I wouldn't be surprised if he really put something together really soon.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on him.
All right. With that, we'll send you guys away for a little bit. We'll be back in 30 minutes. So make sure to stay tuned and take it easy.
All right, thanks, guys.
GG's, everyone.